I flew on a Boeing 757-300. This stretched 757 is, as you can see, one of the more unique looking planes out there. In fact, it's the longest single-aisle airliner in the world. Now, the 757 itself was envisioned as a successor to the Trijet 727 and was originally developed alongside the wide-body 767 in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The 757 has two variants, the base model 757-200, which could seat up to 239 passengers, and then the longer 757-300, seating up to 295. The smaller 200 is still flying with quite a few different airlines, especially in the States, but with only 55 built, the 757-300 can be a bit harder to find. The majority of these are flown by United and Delta, but across the Atlantic, German airline Condor still operates quite a few too. So, back in September last year, I had some free time in Frankfurt between flights, and naturally went looking to see if there were any interesting planes I could fly on. Lo and behold, I found just that on one of Condor's many flights to Palma de Mallorca in Spain. The island of Mallorca is one of the Balearic Islands, an archipelago located off the coast of mainland Spain. The four largest islands in the archipelago are all very popular tourist destinations, and so it's no wonder Condor had multiple flights there this morning. I ended up booking this surprisingly good round-trip fare, at least by Canadian standards, just 2 days in advance. I knew I was not going to pass up the chance to cross this rare type off my list, even if it did mean getting to Frankfurt Airport for a 4:45 a.m. flight. Fortunately, I was already wide awake and jet-lagged enough, so it worked out nicely. Good thing I only had a backpack and digital boarding passes though, because having 6 or 7 flights full of German holidayers leaving at the exact same time leads to predictable results. After winding through the security line with said tourists, I made my way down to gate A20, where the first of 2 757s today was waiting. This one was a then 22-year-old 757-300, registered as Delta Alpha Bravo Oscar Juliet. Condor was the launch customer for the 757-300 and operated 15 of them over the years, including the prototype, which has since been retired. Condor is also going through a bit of a fleet renewal at the moment. Having operated Boeing 757s and 767s for decades already, they've slowly begun replacing these with a mix of Airbus A321s and A330s. Even though they're being phased out, this exact plane actually got repainted just a few months after I flew this, into Condor's bold new livery. Now, another big reason for being here is that I've never actually been on a 757 before. So, that combination of a new type, a rare variant of that type, a relatively cheap fare, again by Canadian standards, among other aviation enthusiast justifications, made this a no-brainer. Eventually, boarding started, with announcements obviously in German only, so I kinda just blended in and headed down the jetway to my first 757. My seat down to Palma is 14F, right near the second set of doors. Now the thing with Condor 757s is that they're equipped with almost the maximum number of seats, which means a knee-crunching 29 inches of pitch. I knew going in that these 2 flights were not going to be the most pleasant, but I deliberately chose not to pay for an exit row just so I could get this fantastic engine view. However, just the way the schedules ended up working out, this flight takes place almost entirely in darkness. Just to make sure I get a proper daylight 757 flight, I'm actually heading straight back to Frankfurt once I get there, which should actually be on the plane right next to us. 2 of the same plane might seem a bit overkill, but I also wanted to have a backup, just in case one of them got swapped to a different type entirely. As you can imagine, for a very long single-aisle plane, boarding finished up eventually, and luckily I had a free middle seat for some extra space. Right on time, we were pushing back and on our way to sunny Mallorca. Here's the departure from Frankfurt with, as expected, some amazing sound from those Rolls-Royce engines off of runway 18.
Check that all your handbags.
As awesome a takeoff as that was, there's just not a whole lot of light at 4:45 in the morning in September, so I was still looking forward to that daylight flight back. I'll save the walk around the cabin for that second flight too, since it's still pretty dark here as well. Looking around the seat though, I figured out how they're able to make 29 inches somewhat tolerable, and it's the fact that the back of the seat in front curves in so it still leaves more room around the knees. Because of that shape, the usefulness of the seat back pocket is debatable, but it's there. The tray table is also pretty basic and folds down but doesn't adjust. There are also these channel and volume controls which don't do a whole lot at the moment. It is only a 2-hour flight to Mallorca, so I wonder if they actually show something on the even longer flights to the Canaries. That is, if you can see the screens at all. They also have these coat hooks on the sides of the seats. In the slightly dirty, let's not think about that too much, literature package, you'll find the safety card for the 757-300, Condor's duty-free catalog, an air sickness bag and their new unique branding, and then a menu for their buy-on-board service. There's no free food or drink for economy class passengers on Condor's short-haul flights, so everything here has to be paid for. Knowing that there was a pretty slim chance of many places being open in Frankfurt, I pre-ordered some breakfast when I booked the flight. That also came with a small complimentary beverage, but I kinda forgot to specify still or sparkling water. I ended up buying a bottle of still water for €3 a little later. This breakfast cost €5 or €6 when I was booking online, and wasn't bad at all. It was well worth waiting a bit longer to eat on the plane, rather than wait in line for 20 minutes at one of the few places that were open. Considering we left right on time and would be landing in Mallorca about 20 minutes before sunrise, there just wasn't a whole lot to see outside. The cabin crew went down the aisle with carts of duty-free, and then turned off the lights for the remainder of the flight. It did get a bit brighter outside as we descended, so here's the arrival into Palma, landing on runway 06 left.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Mallorca. For your own safety, please remain seated with your seatbelt. On behalf of Captain Fliegen as well as the entire crew, I now have to say goodbye to you. We all hope you enjoyed this early flight with Condor and the in-flight crew. For us, it was a pleasure attending to you. We now wish you a nice, relaxing, and above all, sunny vacation. And maybe we will see you on your return flight. Until then, we say thank you, goodbye, and auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah, cabin crew, descent doors.
With that, it was time to say goodbye to this 757 and make my way across the airport to the other one parked just behind it. I would have loved to stay and actually see some of this beautiful island, but the airplanes kinda took priority this time. Besides, I had my flight from Frankfurt to Whitehorse the following day, so there wasn't a whole lot of room for stuff to go wrong. Palma de Mallorca Airport is the third busiest airport in Spain and serves the island of Mallorca with many seasonal flights to the rest of Europe. As limited as my time here was, the terminal was certainly bright and easy enough to navigate. Over at Gate C64 is the other 757 I'll be flying on this trip, wearing Condor's 50th anniversary special livery and registered as Delta Alpha Bravo Oscar November. This livery has Condor's German slogan painted on it, which, as translated into English, means "We love to fly." It's the only Condor plane in this paint job too, which was just pure luck to get it on this specific turn. After leaving one group of tourists just starting their holidays, it was time to blend into another group ending theirs and head back to Frankfurt. I paid a little bit extra to board early and managed to get a couple different cabin shots. And yes, these seats go impossibly far back, and I'll walk around the cabin to see that for myself once we get in the air. My seat heading back north is 13A, a row up on the opposite side this time. For some reason, this row had a whole extra inch of legroom compared to the one behind, and for the same price. A very welcome surprise. As expected, this row also has another great view of that Rolls-Royce RB211, plus the plane I just got off of. In daylight, you can really see how bare bones these seats are. Comfort-wise, they were fine for the flight down here, but a 4 or 5 hour flight to the Canary Islands might be a different story. Then again, these seats kind of reflect the price anyway, so I doubt it's an issue for most people just wanting an inexpensive getaway. Less than an hour after I got off that last flight, we were already pushing back. Just as I was hoping for on the flight down, this takeoff was indeed spectacular. Now that was a takeoff to remember. That was exactly what I wanted from this whole thing. Some incredible RB211 buzz, and a gorgeous view of Spanish countryside. The seatbelt sign stayed on for about the first half of the flight as we went through a couple bumps. Another buy on board service soon started, and I got myself another bottle of water and this pretzel with butter for about €6 total. This pretzel was pretty tasty, and just what I needed for a mid-morning snack. Unlike the previous flight, this time we actually had a chance to take in the sights as we crossed over the south of France. Those views outside only got even better as we approached Switzerland and passed over the Alps. We also encountered an EasyJet A320 around there too. Eventually the seatbelt sign came off, and I got to walk all the way to the back of the plane. This sure puts things into perspective. It's a good thing European airports sometimes use the front and back doors for boarding, because it feels like this plane just does not end. The 757-300 also has 6 exits on either side, with 2 overwing exits and then 4 larger doors. I don't think there's any other airliner out there with that sort of exit configuration. You can see why it's necessary though. Condor 757-300s can seat up to 275 passengers. At the very front are a couple rows of what can be either business class or premium economy in a typical Euro business layout. That means they're the same seats as the rest of the plane, but the middle seats are blocked off. As is typical in Europe though, that number of seats can change. Also, after we landed, I asked the crew if there was any chance I could take a look at the flight deck, and they were more than accommodating. I'm very grateful to have been able to sit in the pointy end of one of these planes before they were retired from passenger service. There's just something about the brown interior of this generation of Boeing flight decks. That was such a great way to end a fun morning of flying nowhere, so a huge thank you to our excellent Condor crew.
Latest weather report from Frankfurt at the moment. 21 degrees on the centigrade scale. Only a few clouds. Thank you for choosing Condor today. I wish you a nice day in Frankfurt. All safe and comfortable on the journey. Thank you.
We eventually crossed back into German airspace, and here's the arrival back into Frankfurt, landing on runway 07 right. So that was my little joyride on the Boeing 757-300. I had a great time flying on Condor 757 both ways, and I'm so glad I did this while I was here. It's one of those rare airliners that I always wanted to fly on somehow, and this really was the perfect opportunity. As nonsensical as flying across Europe for a very specific airplane sounds, it is exactly what I love doing, and kind of what this channel is all about. As more and more 757s get retired in favor of more fuel-efficient types, I know I'll be looking back on these two flights fondly. That being said, I'm thinking I should probably find a smaller 757-200 at some point, but that's a video for another time.
Cabin crew, descend doors.
Thank you so much for watching these couple of flights with Condor 757, and I will see you in the next one.